It's not the way.
So I'll do a little bit of housekeeping stuff before we get too far into it. How's that? So I've been finding some really good fractional, um, I don't know what you call it, coaches. They have like webinars. They'll have you know, coursework, things like that. So I'm going to start posting that on the regular email that I send out. And you should look into a couple of them. You should look into them, I should say, if you're really looking for some guidance. Some of them, my guess is one of them is going to be more expensive, and then there's another one that's not going to be quite as expensive. So, one of them I know really well. The other two I'm just connecting with, so I haven't had any time to really talk to them, but I've got some time set up to find out more about what they're all about. But I'm going to just keep putting things like that in the monthly letter from now on, just to make it a little bit more relevant to some of the things that that we talk about here. So, without further discussion, let's have Melanie start off talking about, again, the storytelling. So this is the final version of that. And hopefully all you guys brought some stories with you, but we'll go through that later on. So Melanie, if you want to go ahead.
Yes. Hello, I'm going to get set up really quickly. Sorry about that.
Yeah, you should be able to share. I think I set it up so you could share. Right?
Yeah, I'm trying to make it where there we go. On my end, my
Okay.
screens were mirroring. So okay. All right. So over the past few months, we've been doing this series on reviewing this book. It's called TED Talks, and it's how to give a TED Talk or how to just present. And this is the third of those.
No audio.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, okay.
Oh, okay. And yeah, so this is the final one. I'm going to do a little bit of a recap toward the end. So if you missed any of them, you'll get to go over those highlights as well. Before we jump into that, I wanted to give you a little background on me. So I am a professional marketer and brand strategist. I also help with culture development, leadership coaching, and I'm a painter. I've been in marketing, sales, and customer service for about 20 years. And currently I work at the same company as Jeff at Pivot Energy. I've been in solar for about 8 years. And really bring like a perspective of a salesperson into marketing. So making sure that things are practical and people can use them. Non-professionally, this is a very common question that people are asked. Where are you from? I can't answer that. My dad was a Marine, so we moved around every 3 to 4 years. And then I think that did something to my childhood brain, and I kept on moving around every 3 to 4 years after graduating high school. So this is an overview of everywhere that I've lived. There's some honorable mentions in there. Those are places that I didn't change my mailing address. I was there for a few months, not over a year. and just the path of, being born in Nebraska, moving to Southern California, Hawaii, Tennessee, Japan, Maryland. I moved to West Virginia, then back to Maryland. Then I moved back to Orange County. I moved to Denver, moved back out to the East Coast, and I'm back in Denver again. And more outside of the professional life, these are things that I care about. So my family being the first picture there. Those are my siblings, and this is my aunt's yard. She's really into Sasquatch, so she has this giant, like, Bigfoot topiary in her yard. And then the middle picture are friends of mine. We're at a show at Red Rocks, and then third is a painting that I recently did and auctioned off for a charity event. Okay, so this is the book, TED Talks. And what we've done so far is gone over a couple of the main sections here, which is the foundation of building what your talk is, and then tools to make that more effective. And what we're going to cover today are really the preparation and process, so the delivery of your talk. We'll go over when to use visuals, scripting, run-on thoughts, opening and closing, and then kind of what you do when you're there. Also, just keep in mind that this is like geared towards how to give a TED talk. So everything that they're talking about is in person. I think that some of this stuff does change when you're on a virtual call, but I am not an expert, so I'm not going to make up some stuff about presenting online, but we can talk about it when we get to that. So the first part is how and when to use visuals. And oftentimes when you're preparing something to say, you prepare a slide deck, as I've done. And if you're in person, that's not always necessary. What you want with your visuals is really if they're going to add to what you're saying or enhance some sort of feeling or emotion. So you're trying to make something enhance what you're saying, not necessarily be exactly what you're saying. Slides shouldn't really have more than one idea on them. So even though you might have a lot of slides, it's better to have like one main thought on them, and just emphasizing that it's a backup to your words, something that's going to let that idea sink in. Another thing is scripting. So when you're giving a talk, I know when I first started doing any sort of presentation, like in grade school, you would write out everything you were going to say. And if you bring that entire thing up to your podium or wherever, you're going to find yourself looking down a lot and trying to read from a script. And that's not very engaging with the audience. You want to make a connection with them so that they're hearing your story and resonating with what you're saying. So bullet pointing out what you want, where transitions are, really works best. And if you do write it out, like if you do have to write it out, basically reading that and rereading it and rereading it, and then going over and then creating your bullet points and then saying it and rehearsing it enough until it sounds natural is really your best bet. So I found that since I started bullet pointing what I was going to say, what I say sounds a lot more natural, and it's easier to make my main points without getting lost in going off on tangents. Something that is really unforgiving, but if you really want to critique yourself, record yourself giving a talk and watch it, and then improve and keep on doing that until you're happy with what it looks like. I did this when I started, I did sales for a long time with Dyson. I sold vacuums, but then I went into kind of a more high pressure sales role. I worked for a nonprofit and we did canvassing, so going door to door and asking for donations. And it was a lot quicker. Like you didn't have as much time with people because you don't want the door slammed on your face. And so I actually recorded myself saying the scripts and seeing where I would like lose people. I did that for an entire day. And it really helped with my effectiveness, I guess. I ended up being the highest grossing. I got like the highest donations out of the entire group. And I think it's because I practiced so much what until it sounded very, very natural, but I knew where I was all of the time within the script. When you walk out or start your presentation, you want to start out really strong. So come out with, could have like a joke or some sort of greeting, and then you take your people all through your story, and you want to end all on the same page. So if you're thinking about this with like a physical presentation or you being physically there, you walk in, basically your introduction to the entire crowd. Story or your talk is there to make the connection with them. And at the end of it, you should be one unified mind in thought and like where you're going. And maybe if you were invoking a lot of ideas, like everybody's kind of buzzing with the same energy. And then these are just tips to overcome your nerves. So everyone gets nervous, and something that we talked about.
Your slide didn't change.
Okay.
There you go.
There we go. Thanks. Something that we talked about in the beginning is that everyone is nervous, and using your nerves can really work for your benefit. People want, like, we tend to root for underdogs. We want to see people succeed. So it's okay to be a little bit nervous. And you can also use fear as motivation. So nervousness and excitement actually register the same way in your brain. So something that I do when I'm really nervous about things is I will say to myself over and over and over, like, I'm excited.
Oh,
Excited to this problem.
we're losing you, Melanie.
Somebody, and their nerves can kind of set your,
You're back now.
I'm back.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, the internet connection here is iffy. Okay, so where did I leave off?
About nervousness and using the energy of it.
Okay, yeah, so nervousness and excitement are the same emotions in your brain, and you can psych yourself out by something that I do is I will say to myself over and over again that I'm excited to give this presentation to all of these people, or I'm excited to share what I've learned with people, or I'm excited to solve this problem with whoever. And by saying that, you're convincing yourself and using that energy in a way that it's a force rather than being debilitating. Another thing is remembering to breathe. So you can slow yourself down if you need to take a break and drink some water. Everybody's okay with that. Try to make sure you eat before you're presenting. If something's major, you don't want to go with like an empty stomach. You want to make sure you're rested. You've done all the right things to set yourself up for like good performance. It's also okay if you just like can't shake the nerves. It's totally fine to say, wow, I'm really nervous right now. And that'll kind of get people on your side if that's something that's natural for you to just kind of come out and say. Being vulnerable helps connect people because we all have those emotions or those moments. You can find friends in the audience. So making eye contact with like a few people that might be friendly or like nodding, and try to stay center on what you're talking about, because you've done all that rehearsing, that you've basically, you know what track you're trying to go down. Speaking of drinking water, we're going to do that right now, and then I'll switch sides. Or tea, whatever you have. So the other two things that are important are your voice and your body language. I forget what the percentage is, but when I was taking a communications class, they were saying something like 80% of communication is nonverbal. That's your body language, and how you say stuff is really important. So if you walk out onto stage, or even if I were here, like looking at notes or not looking like generally in the direction of the camera, there would be a disconnect. And a lot of the body posture that I use are like my hands are pretty open, trying to be inviting. If you are stiff or cross-legged or have your hands in your pockets, those are kind of some gestures that aren't as open and can be closed off from the audience. So you want to make sure that you're kind of upright, best posture positions, open and engaging. The tone of your voice is important too, and your volume. So when you're trying to make a strong point, oftentimes it's better to be a little bit more quiet. People tend to hone in on what you're saying when you actually soften your volume. Another thing is pace. So something that I do, and I got this from an executive coach that I had. So I tend to be, if you met me, I tend to be pretty monotone and flat. I don't have a lot of variety in my voice, but something that I do to have more excitement levels is every time I change a slide, I try to re-up where I started, so that I'm speaking a little bit louder. There's a little bit more speed or excitement level to what I'm saying. Otherwise, I start to fall really flat. And so if you have these different triggers within what you're saying, or parts of your speech where you're like, this is really where I need to emphasize something, like you can either like underline or make some sort of like point in your head. This is like where I really want people to pay attention. And those are the majority of the tips and tricks that they talk about in the last section. The other part is like appearance and like wearing, the right clothes and stuff, but we're all professionals. I don't think we need to necessarily go over that. And just knowing your audience. So to recap on the book as a whole, and this is, how to give a great talk. I'm going to summarize really quickly. Which is presenting is learnable. The thing that I've been to this group is presenting more so that I can learn how to get better at it. And anyone can do it if you just keep on trying. Beginning with an idea. So you have to have a good idea if you want to share it or present on it. And then having, your aim is having something important to say, and you want to capture your audience and perhaps change their perspective on the topic. So you want to rebuild this idea that you have in their minds. When you're doing that, your audience's knowledge and understanding about your topic is limited. So you want to start with where they are. You probably know more than them. So using things like analogy or sometimes visuals can really help them grasp the concept that you're trying to convey. Avoid presenting a sales pitch. You're not selling anything. You're just trying to recreate the same, and don't ramble. And you don't have to limit when you're explaining your idea. like using that analogy or whatever, you don't have to stick to one single idea. You can have other stories as long as there's a through line that everything connects to and builds on that center idea. And visuals can be useful, but only if they offer something you can't put into words. And then use your voice and your body language to emphasize points that help tell your story. And then you will be able to give a TED Talk.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. I'm gonna figure out how to stop presenting.
Yeah. Are you able
I
to,
can't see my,
see if I can stop you?
I got it.
There you go. You got it. All right. Okay. So thank you for that. And, you know, the reason we've gone through this is most of the time you know, you need to communicate through telling stories. You know, there's actually books now written about how the CFO has to be a good storyteller and how to tell stories. And even way back when I was training young financial analysts and financial presenters on how to do it, I would tell them, you got to tell the story, you know, and you know, as you know, the CFO or the financial head or whoever you are with the financial side, you get to see the numbers first and you get to see the story that the numbers are telling us. And then the trick is, how do you meet the operating people where they are, as Melanie was pointing out, and tell them the story that you found in their numbers. So I want to go through a little bit of an exercise, and it's usually a lot of fun when we do it. But the first thing is, so this concluded that 3 or 4 month section on storytelling. And so I need some input on where do we go from here, you know, with this group. So has anybody have any ideas on what we may want to talk about in the future? What are some interesting things to be part of? Any ideas? Because if you leave it up to me, it's hard. You know, I'm running, I've been doing this a year now, and I'm kind of flatlining here on my creative ideas. So I need some stimulation.
Hey Jeff, I have a quick idea.
Okay,
It's hard to quantify it, but to me, I'm always struggling with just business development ideas. What's the best way to go about this? Where's the best way to put my time? Finding the people to reach out to and, finding the method to reach out to them by, whether it's a call, a Zoom, an email, a text, or whatever. But
yeah,
to me, at least for me, business development is probably my number one issue.
that's good. Yeah, we do a lot of work around that. We could have some fun with that. And by the way, if, you know, along the way, if any of you want to present, you know, and you know, on what you're doing or, you know, some of the things you're seeing, we would love to have more presenters at the meeting. So,
Well, I'll probably respond to that maybe in a half year when I have a better handle of it. Right now, if you want a worst case scenario, maybe you can have me present, but maybe
okay, so,
half a year, I'll do a best case scenario.
so maybe it could be what not to do?
No, I wouldn't say that, but
No, I know. I'm just kidding. That was a joke. Um,
well, that could be, we'll save that for April 1st.
yeah, there you go. Yeah. I could tell you a lot of good stories of what not to do, on that. So anybody else have thoughts, topics? How about you, Tariq? You've always got some good ideas.
I think I echo Dave's comments about business development. A lot of us, when we start out, we really don't know which channel works better for you and which does not. And then we experiment and blah, blah, blah. So I'm just wondering if we can benefit from each other's experiences to say, you know what, I tried this multimedia marketing strategy, whatever. Instagram doesn't work, Facebook works, etc., etc., etc.
Yeah,
And if that might be very helpful because I have gone through that. And Jeff, I know you have mentioned a few times that you have gone through this type of trying out different forums and different medias and different magazines or whatever we used to do in the old days. Some work, some don't. And I agree with Dave that we need to probably do a little bit more sessions on that business development cycle. What's working in 2022
yeah,
and so on.
yeah, because it's so different now than it was 15 years ago, 20 years ago when I first started. It's incredibly different. And in mostly in a good way, by the way. You know, and then
What
what's
I'm finding,
Yep.
yeah, what I'm finding is hiring these marketing gurus to put your name in front of CEOs or board of directors or the owners for that matter is not as straightforward as one would think. So, because a lot of people on their social media platforms don't necessarily mention what they do for a living. And keyword search is this is all about, because you're going to present to a guy who does not own a business. He's not going to even click on your fractional CFO banner, which is running in front of him. He probably wouldn't even know what it is. So you need to make sure that you're focusing and finding those people. And my social media person tells me that finding is the hardest part, because not everybody is very open to say they're a business owner, or they are not open to say if they are CEO or sitting on a small company board and so on. So that's my biggest challenges at the moment. And again, we only need it when there is a little bit of a, you need a little bit more infusion into your business activity and you're slowing down or something. By the time you get it all geared up, you got enough clients, you forget all about that. And then you go through that cycle many, many times over.
Yeah. Yep.
Jeffrey, it's Tim.
Yep.
So I'm obviously a little late to the game. I didn't realize you've been at this for a year now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So obviously today's great job, Melanie, about presenting. Just trying to get a sense of what the sort of primary focus of the activity has been for the past year, and what expectations of the members are. In other words, my understanding is it's about fractional CFO work. Is a lot of the focus on how to go about getting clients, obviously?
It hasn't been. It's been about the whole ecosystem of being a fractional CFO. That's the intent, is not just on the business development side, but learning how to tell stories. And we're going to go through that in a minute, is a big part of business development. It's one thing to get in front of somebody. That's actually it's the easier part of business development, is to get in front of people. The hardest part is to land them as a client. So, there's a lot that goes into that. And, part of it is not about storytelling, which is how things resonate with the potential clients. So what we all want business, but also, if you're a newer fractional CFO, just being able to do the job compared to doing the doing a regular CFO job, it's very different, you know? Very different. Like, how do you meet their expectations? How do you manage their expectations? You know, all kinds of things that go into that.
Because I have certain colleagues who, you know, they're CPAs, MBAs, but they call themselves consultants, which I think, I don't know, fractional CFO seems to make more sense for what it is I would do.
Yeah, so in your mind, that's a good one. What's the difference between the two?
I guess a consultant is somebody who offers maybe guidance or direction or bounce things off, whereas a fractional CFO is doing some real work, you know, real financial work. And in other words, companies don't need a full-time CFO in a lot of cases. I'm winding down my last job, and I'm working with a new client. And you know, it's not full-time, but I don't think of myself as a consultant because I'm doing real work for her.
Yeah. Yeah, so I break it down a little different. Here's how I break it down. It's similar, but you know, a fractional, when people are hiring me as a fractional CFO, they're taking like a full breadth of 10% of my time, right? So I come to the table with everything that a CFO brings to the table, but I've just mastered how to help many different companies all at the same time. Whereas, you know, typically the consultants are in this world, they're kind of like the project guys, you know, where they'll, instead of fractional this way, they're fractional time this way, meaning they work a project, then when they're done with that project, now they got to get another project, and then they keep going. And so with bringing it vertically, like I do, you get the opportunity to stay with them almost forever if you want, you know, if it works out. Generally, what happens to me when I leave a fractional job, it's because they got so big that they actually need somebody full-time. And
Yeah.
I don't want to do it, you know?
No, I mean,
So-
I think that's a really good differentiation. The consultant is project-oriented, time-limited. Fractional CFO could go on forever. But my last point is talking to, I'll call them headhunters. Some of them never even heard of the term fractional CFO.
Yeah, which by the way is amazing now. Headhunters don't like it. Because they you know, they get paid for bringing on somebody's full percent of their full salary. You know,
Right.
and so like when I work at a company, I might make, you know, 50,000 off of that company in a year. That's not going to actually feed a headhunter very well, you know,
Right.
percent of that. But I have a friend that is in Denver here that does, he helps people with project work, you know, so it's like Robert Half almost, but it's a different company. It's called Brainworks. And they fill like temporary financial roles for people. But he's thrown me a couple of opportunities for fractional, just because for that same reason, he doesn't want them. So he just, you know, he'll help out the client just to make himself, you know, a good referral for that client. But, you know, he doesn't want to spend any time trying to find a fractional person for somebody.
Right. That's the feeling I got.
Yeah. But, you know, what I was bringing up earlier, the word fractional, when I started doing this work, fractional didn't exist, the word fractional. I called it surrogate So they didn't, my word didn't stick, but that's what I called it, was a surrogate CFO or a surrogate COO, depending on what they needed. And then somewhere along the way, I started hearing the word fractional CFO. And so I started looking into it and I said, oh, that's what I've been doing. But now if you go searching around, it's everywhere. And it's not just CFOs. We kind of lead the charge in it. But I was just at a meeting last week on being it was a group that's fractional CMO, that's what they do. And they invited heads of companies. So I own a company, and so they saw that, so they invited me to it. But the whole meeting was about all kinds of fractional ways of going into the world. And as a matter of fact, Brendan Filbert, who just joined, so why don't I let her talk a little bit? She's kind of pioneering some of the support systems for being a fractional whatever. And they got a company called Freeway to Fractional, or a company or a program they call. Yeah. So you're there. You go.
I'm muted. I figured it
So
out.
I'll let you tell them rather than me stumble all over it. So go ahead.
Well, about a year ago, Mark Blackton, who co-chairs another FANG chapter here in our area, we started a program that discusses transitioning into fractional services from corporate roles. And it's something that he helped me put together the course, but I've actually been counseling folks for, oh gosh, I guess it's been going on about 17 years is how long I've been aware of the fractional kind of movement. And one of my very first fractionals that I worked with was actually, she used to be in charge of labor law enforcement for the state of Missouri. And she transitioned her expertise and became a fractional compliance officer. So she created a consulting as well as fractional solution there. And the difference that I found, it's actually a little bit different than Timothy, your explanation of the difference between. What we found is that the consulting approach actually had her doing more of the direct compliance and management work, whereby when she stepped in as a fractional officer, it was more training and advisory and coaching and setting up all the systems for them to do the day-to-day operations or work. And then she just supported it from an external basis in most cases.
Yeah.
So that's what I've noticed just a little bit.
Yeah, that's a good point. When I was on this other meeting last week, one of the things that I brought up, because it was kind of the topic, but I brought up that one of my clients has a fractional marketing person.
Mhm.
And that fractional marketing person, so my client is always frustrated with her fractional marketing person, because in her mind, the fractional marketing person isn't getting anything done. And so what I helped her do is to understand that, hey, look, what you want her to do, all this technical or administrative work, really isn't what she's all about. You're paying her a lot of money per hour, and you got her, trying to figure out how to, post things on LinkedIn and things like that. I said, you really need kind of a back office marketing person to be able to do the day-to-day stuff. And so
Or a virtual assistant.
yeah. And so what we did is we set that up. And so now she's incredibly happy with her marketing person, because her marketing person isn't doing the work.
Yes.
She's guiding the work that this it's a back office place out of Honduras that I know about. They're doing the day-to-day work, whereas the marketing person, and so she's actually paying the marketing person less. The marketing person is happy, my client is happy, and it's all going really well. So what Brenda was saying, I try not to do too much work when I'm doing fractional CFO work for people, because I'll get bogged down and I can't keep it up, you know? Like this one woman wants me to help her with her bank recs, and I told her, well, actually, you need to go hire a new bookkeeper, you know? And so now she's searching for a new bookkeeper. So,
Well,
Yeah.
and one of my clients that offered fractional solutions, what they actually did is they partnered with a local accounting firm that had created a half technical and some VA and some advisory services for a bookkeeping solution that was kind of I think it was 1,500 to 2,500 a month, depending on what the number of transactions were that they were managing. And it was pretty cool because there was a technology solution that they'd scan all of their invoices to, and they would take a picture with their smartphone of their receipts that would upload to the cloud. And then they had the virtual assistant that was offshore that would categorize where the receipts were supposed to go, where the expenses were supposed to go. And they had bill pay options that were managed by the fractional. So, I mean, all in all, the fractional ended up spending very little time actually doing the work because everything was done and it was accurate and it was done the way that they wanted. So there
Yeah.
are so many different ways you can get this done.
So, so why don't we do this? So, you know, Dave was talking about business development, and business development is obviously an extremely important part. And, you know, it's hard to wait once a month, right, to find out more and more about business development. So there are operations like what Brendan has. So Brendan, why don't you kind of, and by the way, there's no pressure on any of this stuff, but why don't you kind of pitch Dave a little bit on what you do for the fractional people and how you help them with business development?
Sure. No pressure, Dave. Sorry about this. I promise I won't put the full court press on.
I've,
It's
I've
been a long
actually
time.
heard, I've heard your discussion before, right?
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
All right, good. But,
All righty.
okay.
And I do apologize. I think I signed up to go to one of your most recent presentations.
Stop by my office.
I couldn't make it. So
Oh, well, you probably heard from us anyway, because, you know, once you end up on our list, you become our best friend.
I have a lot of
So-
best friends.
Well,
Yeah.
we hope to provide value. So what Mark and I
Why
did
don't you
is,
go ahead? Mark wants to hear
Tell
it.
us.
So why don't you talk about
Okay.
it?
okay, awesome. Well, Mark and I put this course together because we just made a lot of mistakes. Oh my goodness, did we make a lot of mistakes? And the thing that was interesting about our journey through this whole figuring out, we just basically looked at every mistake that cost us a lot of money and created a lot of frustration. And we're like, how can we help people avoid these mistakes that we made, as well as we watched others make? And over the years, as I mentioned, I've been counseling a lot of fractional executives before it was really a thing. And the way that we broke it down, most of my clients, I've been doing sales coaching and training since 2001. And most of my clients are highly skilled technical professionals. So many of them went to law school, or they've got MBAs or PhDs, and they never really signed up for marketing in any of their degree requirements. It just wasn't a thing. And the thing is it became one of the most important elements of building a successful career once you get to a certain point within a firm, or you decide you want to go out on your own. So what we created is a 4-module course that has a bunch of independent lessons within each module. And it's what's known as a hybrid digital course, which means you have access to the content that you can take at 2 a.m. in your jammies if you're having a hard time sleeping. Or if you want to hop in on a live call, we offer live calls as well in between the modules, so that you can come in and hear us talk about where you might get stuck, or what some of the challenges are to the exercises, and sometimes just help you overcome the mindset shifts. And in putting it together in this way, we've been able to create something that's very affordable for just about anyone to jump into, so that they can look at exploring fractional even while they're doing their 9 to 5. If you want to kick off a side hustle, we've had clients that have done that started fractional a year before they exited corporate, or we've had others that they, jumped into the program when they were getting ready to give their notice, so that they had a very planned exit. And then we've had others that have been trying to do fractional for quite some time, but they just didn't have the system to actually go and acquire clients. And that's what about 50% of the course is about, is figuring out what your fractional solution is, who you want to sell it to, how you go about selling it, and then once you're in there, how do you deliver it in a way that makes sense? Because we're not about selling time for money. We align with Jeff a lot on that. We think that it needs to be about providing incredible value with systems and processes that allow you to amplify what you do. So we would basically take what you were doing in a 40-hour job, and we can show you how to condense it in a lot of cases to where you can do it in a fraction of the time and deliver some pretty incredible results. So that's kind of how our program is set up. And it's lifetime access to the program. It's not an annual membership or anything like that. So you take the course once, you join the community, and we love to have and support you in it. And then we offer a lot of different things there as well, like community networking events and access to different opportunities. And right now we're discovering that we're finding associations that are looking for fractional talent, and we're actually beta testing a collaboration where we provide the bench for a local association that also provides consulting services, and they're going to access our directory of talent in order to promote them to their clients and members. So we come up with different stuff like that just because we figure it adds value for you to have access to not only the how-to, but also the community that can help you expand and grow your efforts. So that's kind of the high level summary. I'm not sure, Jeff, did that kind of accomplish what you were looking for?
Yep. Yes, it did. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for the opportunity.
Yeah. So what we're trying to create here, where'd he go? Did we lose?
Oh, no, I did run him off.
You did. Anyway, what we're trying to create here is a community as well. And it's just to help people. This is not an easy thing, being
No.
a fractional, whatever you are, in this case, CFO. It's not easy. I've given a presentation on my journey through there, and there was and I've talked to Brendan and Mark about this quite extensively. Nothing like that existed when I was beginning. And so it was like I had to hit all the speed bumps and run into all the brick walls. And, it was not an easy journey to get to the point of success. I had maxed out all my credit cards and all that good stuff. I was a typical, geez, what's happening here? And the further I got into it, the more I had to work harder, because all of a sudden now I'm really in a bind.
Yeah.
And so it didn't exist. And so, it's all about, we talk about what is it, how do you develop clients? It sounds like a simple topic, but you have to get good at networking. You have to get good at marketing yourself, branding yourself, and selling. All those things, they're not intuitive for financial people. It's not what we do. We became financial people because we're good at other things. But if you're going to have your own business, you have to do all that, and you have to really differentiate yourself from the rest of the world. And that's where, that's why we bring in the concept of of storytelling. You know, yeah, that's the TED Talk book, but you know, every customer that I've ever gotten was because I was telling them stories. You know, I had to get my what am I to across to them. And they're not, you know, they could care less if I'm a good bookkeeper or a good financial analyst or a good whatever. I have to give them reasons to believe that what I've done in the past, I'm going to do for them. And so that's why, you know, at this meeting, I wanted to go through, we still have a little bit of time to do it, but go through some of the stories. You know, what you find is that when you first start telling stories, you're really not going to be very good at it unless for some reason you're a salesperson. Usually salesperson, people are natural storytellers. You know, I was always a pretty good storyteller, but not to the point where I needed to be for to survive out in the business world. And so, you know, you have to learn. And believe it or not, I keep relearning. You know, like Melanie's helped me tremendously in branding some of the other stuff I'm working on. I had a coach. I spent $2,000 on a coach to teach me how to do basically storytelling again, and this was only 2 or 3 years ago. And to do videos, you know, like Melly said, it's pretty harsh reality when you sit in front of a camera and you say do something, and then you play it back. I was embarrassed, you know, to play it all back to myself. So, and I see a hand raised.
I think that's me. Hopefully my microphone's working. This is
Yes.
Abigail. Okay, here's my question, Jeff, is in terms of, I'm kind of straddling business development and storytelling. In terms of business development, what seems to work is to be introduced to companies through a trusted advisor. What I'd like to know from the group is what trusted advisor has been most successful for them? Has it been attorneys? Has it been local CPA firms? Has it been bankers? Has it been, you know, whoever? And then it seems to me that if you can prioritize how you're introduced into the company, that you've got two different stories to tell. You've got one to the person who's going to introduce you to the company, and then there's a story that you're going to tell when you talk to the company. But I'd be interested to know from the group what trusted advisors have been most successful at introducing them and getting them in front of the decision makers in potential clients.
Jeff, I can speak up on that one a bit if it makes sense.
Yeah, go ahead.
For me, the biggest trusted advisors are those that you can refer and add the most value to. And so for me, it's a CPA firm. In our firm, we do not do any CPA work. We don't do any bookkeeping. And so since we don't step into their territory, so to speak, they can see me as a trusted advisor sitting alongside them with a client or a potential introduction to them. So anywhere that it's a good advisor, CPAs are terrific. You know, you find those people that I trust them, I can give them referrals, they find trust back, and it naturally occurs. Bankers are one I've actually struggled with. I've given lots of referrals to bankers, and it's lukewarm the amount that I get back. So I'm still trying to figure that one out. Took a while with getting the right CPA. So I think it's trying to be a great networker and give referrals and find who will in return give them back. That's my thought. Brendan.
Yeah, that's good. Hey, Rick, how about you? You've been doing this for a little while.
Yeah, I'd be glad to add some comments to that. For me, it really was the relationships you already have and nurturing those and spreading the word, just being candid, you know, that you need the work, and people that already know what you do, they trust you. You don't have to sell yourself as much. The issue I'm running at, the brick wall I'm running up against now, Jeffrey, is I've used those up kind of, you know, and the continuity of the work is not what I thought it would be. It became, the perception of the client was so often, most of the time, they are hiring a consultant, and it is for a defined scope of work. And they're giving you that defined scope of work, and they're trying to find out, are you done yet? Are you done yet? Are you done yet? So it's the continuity part that has been an issue for me. Yeah, that's my answer to that question.
Yeah, that's interesting.
I'm happy to chime in on this one as well, since it's kind of what I live and breathe all day, every day, and
Yep.
twice on Sunday. So over the years, I mean, I've got clients that, because I teach people how to prospect via referral relationships and strategic alliances. And I will tell you that the folks that I see struggling in terms of if they look for the traditional route, so it's the financial advisor who's told to go find the estate planning attorney and the CPA to be his best referral partner. And what he often discovers is that he's trying to get the biggest introverts in the world to actually step out of their assigned box and talk about something that they're really not comfortable with because they're not the expert. And the people that he's found the best results with, you know, the typical wealth manager, is with people that are used to asking questions and exploring the problems that are going to affect the quality of solution that they're delivering. So this is part of the reason the fractional and the CPA make such a great marriage, because you need each other in order to deliver the best financial solution to the client. And you may be struggling with finding bankers that refer you because they don't understand yet what your offer is and how you're going to make their life better and how you're going to get more deals done, or how you're going to get better ongoing consistent financials that they don't have to nag their client in order to send them on an ongoing basis. So, I mean, that's kind of what I've discovered, is it's not just also the who that you're approaching, because most people don't know how to be a great referral relationship. They're happy to throw a name and a business card and say, hey, you can use my name when you call. But not very many people are great partners like Jeff, where they say, hey, not only is here a solution that we think you would find value, but this is what I most like about what they're doing, or here's where I think they can make your journey easier. And that's key to a great introduction. It's got to be somebody that's willing to actually lend you their influence and not just throw a name. And that influence is what's going to shorten your sales cycle from being months into minutes.
Can you expand? You said something that I don't quite understand. You said be associated with people who are used to asking questions. Can you expand upon that?
So a lot of salespeople are not good at asking questions. They're good at getting on their talk track and they're good at their script, but they really stink at building relationships with their clients. They talk too much. All they talk about is their product. And once they land that client, they throw it over their shoulder and then to the service team, and then they're off to go find their next customer. So your best relationships are people, I find, that need to have a reason to stay top of mind with their customer beyond what value they deliver. So if you think about it, it's like the PNC attorneys and the benefits and the financial advisors may not have something to talk to their clients about on a day-to-day basis, although financial advisors have a lot to talk about with our current market, and none of it's good news. So if you can give them something to bring more value to what they're delivering, especially if it's all bad news that helps them in other areas, then you're going to build a retention solution around your client. At the same time, you're developing that what we call emotional equity with that new partner to stay top of mind. But then the other key to this is consistently communicating with them about what your offer is that they can promote to their client base. Because the thing that you have to recognize about selling any solution right now in our market today is people are scared and they're overwhelmed and they're just, you know, they're having a hard time engaging and they get stuck. So the more you can give them baby steps to kind of try you out and to begin to develop a relationship and experience value, you know, much like Jeff gave me the opportunity to come today and visit with you all. I'm happy to give you all the ideas in the world, and you may never hire me, but this is a fantastic investment of my time because you may encounter someone that you hear some of the issues that I'm able to help serve. And then instead of just saying, hey, you should check out what Brendan's doing, you're probably also going to say, she shared an idea with me that I found really helpful during this 10 minutes that she chatted on this networking group that I hopped in on. So
Can I expand on that part?
please
Yes.
dive in.
So that is what Brendan just said is literally the key to my success over the last 20 years. Exactly that little point that she just said. That's how important it is. You know, why do I do this meeting? Right? Anybody ever wonder why I do this meeting? I do this meeting because every week or every month, I get to talk to a bunch of people that understand what I do and give them free information, and they're going to remember who I am. I have gotten 3 referrals over the last 6 months from doing this meeting. None of them worked out, but I got the referrals. So, but that's how I get them. I tried the referral partner thing, but what you'll find is your best, or what I found. So this is, everybody's opinion. This is the beauty of this. Everybody's opinion is different. What works for everybody is very different. But the referral partners that people talk about, they're finding lots of people like me wanting them to be their referral partners, and I want them to be my referral partners. And where it's worked the best for me, where my referrals come from, the communities that I'm in. And so it's not a referral partner thing, really, for me. It's building a community. You guys are all my community. I do a bunch of other things where I'm constantly building community. I get the opportunity now because I built a community in the FANG with all the people in the FANG. And so now I get speaking opportunities because of that community. And so, like, I'm going to be speaking at the Chicago FANG meeting for the 2nd time in 6 months. And I'm building a community with the guys in the Chicago FANG. I did another presentation on the East Coast for the Management Accounting Institute, and there was some guy there that actually hired me to be his business. He didn't even want me to be a fractional CFO. He just wants me to be his business advisor. And he wants to talk to me twice a month for an hour at a time to just talk about his business. That's all he wants. And so I give stuff away, just like Brenda was saying. I'm always giving away all of my knowledge, and people used to say to me, what are you doing that for, Jeff? They're going to steal your knowledge. And I don't know if it's arrogance or if it's self-confidence, but I say, yeah, but they can't do with it what I do. Only I can do with my knowledge what I do with my knowledge. And so, I don't mind passing it on. I consider everybody a friend. And if I can help their career, I'm a very happy person.
The people that steal your knowledge and don't follow through aren't your tribe anyway.
Yep, that's true. There you go. Yep. So Tariq, you've been doing this a long time. So
Can I jump in, Jeff?
Yeah, go ahead.
Again, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Oh, no, that's okay.
I mean, that's very valuable, but it's, quite frankly, it's more of a long-term solution. Any advice for those of us who are trying to bootstrap what they're doing and need some short-term solutions as well?
Well, here's what I did when I started. I was a CFO, COO for about a $350 million company. And I had lots of connections, and it was made up of 15 divisions. And it got bought by somebody and they kind of broke it all apart. So fortunately for me, that scattered all kinds of people that I know all over the United States, right? And so I went after suppliers, I went after competitors, I went after the guys that I used to manage that were in different companies now. And the CPA firm that I worked with, because we were pretty tight, you know, I worked with them for 15 years. They threw me a couple bones, you know, as well. And because I think Rick was saying, right, that I let everybody know what I was doing and that I needed opportunities. And so that's how I got started. I didn't know exactly what I was doing, but I knew enough to, you know, throw out all those, and there was no LinkedIn or anything like that at the time. It was 20 some years ago. So I just knew enough it was survival, is really what it was. That's how I got started. Yeah, Tariq, go ahead.
Just repeating somewhat what Rick was saying, referrals. Let me just share my experience. I've been doing it for 15 years and really have not done any marketing whatsoever. Now I'm at a point where I should probably do a little bit more. Things are changing. My clients have moved on and so on and so forth. My referral source has been predominantly smaller banks, not the big ones, the smaller banks, the local banks, the credit unions and all that. And ironically, it's been their troubled loan department.
Yeah.
They have a ton of these clients which are in $15 million to $75 million range. They have Martha, the bookkeeper, who became the controller, who became part owner, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Doesn't know basic bookkeeping, let alone give the guidance of a CFO and so on. So they are sick and tired of that. And the bank is like to call in the loan as the last straw. They'll say, you know what? You really need a CFO. You can't afford one. Let me refer you, Tariq, who does this for a living, and he's going to come in once a week and maybe straighten things out. So I found that source to be very valuable. And it's hard to find that little department in those little banks and companies. But once you find that, that's a gold mine. They're always looking for people to sort out, you know, the businessman who can't get it together and who keep over expanding and adding more vac trucks. He already has 50. He can manage. He'll add 10 more, and so on and so forth. So, but at the same time, some of these banks have a restriction on them. They do not want to be on record saying we are referring this person to you. I think there's a legal situation or whatever. So it's mostly done off the record saying, we will recommend you 3 people. Here's the first one. And the other 2 may never happen. That way they're protecting their rear end and saying, you know, go talk to this guy. So once you get in there, my pitch always is, nice meeting you, so-and-so. What's your pain points? And the guy starts, and then he's almost in tears and saying, I can't do this, I can't sleep, this, blah, blah, blah. And it goes from there. Once you earn that initial interview or initial trust with them, and you're not pitching, you're just saying, just share your pain points with me. It's like courting somebody and saying, you know, what gets you going type of thing. And once you share to say, oh, yeah, well, I understand the cash flow is a big issue for you. And you share a couple of stories saying, well, you know what? My other clients are also suffering from that. They said, really? I didn't think anybody was suffering other than me. And it kind of goes from there. And back to the storytelling point, you share a couple of your experiences with them. You're building a trust. By this time, there is no billing question. There is no retention question. There is no money being talked about. After an hour, the guy says, what do you charge? And say, I don't think you're going to like it. I charge whatever, $250, $300 an hour. Wow, I don't need a drinking buddy for $300 an hour. I said, you're not getting a drinking buddy. You're getting an advisor, which you normally will pay $700 if you went to Price Waterhouse or somebody else. And even then they'll send you a junior accountant to deal with your matters. So it's kind of how you pitch it. I never, ever go in to make a sale. And 90% of the time I go in, have a chat, have a coffee. If you're in northern part of US, you have a coffee. In southern part, you have a beer. So, and you kind of just chatting with them as a one-on-one. If you're able to develop the rapport and the confidence that this guy ain't going to run away with my $1 million, you're in already. I have clients where I'm literally going for maximum 10 hours a month. That's literally one morning, every Monday morning, Tuesday morning, whatever. And they've been with me for 6 years. I've hired their accountant, I've hired their controller, I've fired their controller, I've hired their COO, and I'm only supposed to be an outside consultant. One more comment and then I'll keep quiet.
By the way, this is really valuable, so keep going. Yep.
The concept of fractional is still very raw. A lot of people don't understand. They look at the number called fractional, and half of them, depending on their background, like myself, if they're not native English speaker, they don't understand that. And even if they do, they just, I mean, a plumber is a plumber is a plumber. If he has 500 cars or vans and so on, he may not be articulate to understand that. Then you explain to them, basically. That's what I do. I say, I'm on your side 24/7, but I only, available to guide your staff, not necessarily do your books. And they say, well, don't all the accountants do the books? No, they don't. So this is how, I mean, if you're trying to get that C-level attention from a person who's already at C-level or board level, another source of mine has been the board members. If these companies are little private companies, they will have select board members who happen to be relatives traditionally, and 3 or 4 brothers and a sister are the board members, and Papa set it up. Typical Italian style of construction company I'm talking about, out of New York. By the way, I'm in Florida. A lot of New Yorkers come down here, so I get to know their stories and so on. So basically from there, now, most of these board of directors really know how to get the dividends out of the company. They don't really know how to run it. They have some professional people running it for them. And certainly CFO leaves. Now they have no idea where to find one. And they don't even know whether they need a CFO or a controller or a bookkeeper. To them, all these waste of money sitting in a corner accountants need to be tamed and deliver what they expect them to be delivered. I'm sorry if I'm just using the street language, but this is the reality on the ground. This is my market. I deal with 15 to $75 million people, companies or whatever, and they always have a need. And sometimes it's always a feast or famine. Sometimes I have too many clients and I normally do not take more than 4 or 5. I can't serve them. Simple as that. Because if I'm committing a day, a week, there's only 5 days, and I try not to do weekends. So you get, and then right now, for example, somebody phoned me up and said, do you have some capacity? I said, I got 3 days. What do you have? So I'm at that point. Certainly I've sold 2 clients, and another company is folding and so on. So somebody mentioned that, I don't remember the name, that there's no continuity, there's no consistency. This is not a job. There is no 9 to 5. There is some months you will be billing 30,000 a week, and next 2 months you build nothing. So it depends. So you mentally need to be that entrepreneurial spirit to understand that there is no consistency. You just book your holidays and tell everybody you're not available at that time. And guess what? 2 days before you're leaving, there's a new client on the door. Always happens. I don't know, Murphy's Law or whatever. Thank you, guys.
Yeah. Yeah, so Abigail, just to be clear too, when I first started doing this, I did anything for anybody. I was not picky. If they wanted me to fix their QuickBooks, I went in and fixed their QuickBooks. If they wanted me to help them with SAP, whatever I had expertise in, I would do it in the beginning, but I kept moving towards, the fraction. I always knew what I wanted to be. And I just kept moving closer and closer to that. And the only reason I knew what I wanted to be, by the way, was I worked for a company that had 15 companies located all over the world. And so I knew everything there was to know, and they were all small. So 350 million, but 15 companies. And so I was a small company expert, and I knew exactly what it took to be their CFO, COO advisor, if you will, whatever you want to call it. And so I kept moving in that direction of that model, you know, and it was easy for me to pitch because I said, yeah, 15 companies for 15 years, there's not much I haven't seen. That was my pitch all the time, so. Oh, time to go. Okay. I gotta run, but all right, so we'll, anybody else come up with any ideas along the way? You know, please.